Do you want rock-solid proof that Kim Davis broke no law? It absolutely amazes me the number of pastors and Christians who are saying that Rowan County, Kentucky clerk Kim Davis should be in jail because she, quote, broke the law and ignored the Supreme Court's decision on gay marriage. After all, they say, the Supreme Court decision is law, and it is the supreme law of the land. But that's pure hogwash. The Supreme Court can't make law. It can, under constitutional authority, only render decisions upon the constitutionality of laws that have already been made or enacted by the only branch of government that can legally make a new law, the legislative branch, and then signed off on by the executive branch. Since there has been no law made regarding gay marriage by the legislative branch and signed off on by the executive branch, the Supreme Court had no authority to render a decision that could then be interpreted as law for all 50 states. As a matter of fact, there used to be a law enacted by Congress and signed by Bill Clinton. It was called the Defense of Marriage Act. And in 2013, just 2 years ago, in the U.S. versus Windsor, that law, DOMA, was struck down by the same 5 justices who just gave us the so-called gay marriage ruling. In that Defense of Marriage Act decision, those same 5 justices declared that the DOMA ruling was unconstitutional precisely because the federal government has no constitutional authority to define marriage. That was their words. The Constitution, they said, does not enumerate that power to the federal government. So they said that DOMA was illegal and the decision regarding the definition of marriage must be left to the states. That's what the Supreme Court said in 2013. Any ruling by the federal government, they declared, on the definition of marriage would necessarily be, quote, illegal and unconstitutional. No, the Supreme Court's decision and opinions are not the supreme law of the land. Does anyone remember the Dred Scott ruling? In reality, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And the 10th Amendment is part of the Constitution. And that 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. So the power to regulate marriage was not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. You won't find it anywhere in the Constitution. And the Supreme Court upheld this truth and this principle in the Windsor versus U.S. or the DOMA case. And here's what Thomas Jefferson had to say on the issue of the Supreme Court being the supreme law of the land in a letter written to William Charles Jarvis on September the 28th, 1820. Thomas Jefferson said, "To consider the judges as the ultimate arbitrators of all constitutional questions is a very dangerous doctrine indeed, and one which would place us under the despotism of an oligarchy." Now back to Kim Davis. She upheld Kentucky law, plain and simple, 100%. Kentucky law prohibits gay marriages in that state. She was not obligated to uphold a Supreme Court opinion, since there was no law from the federal government upon which to base that Supreme Court opinion. Kim Davis broke no law, and the federal judge's ruling demanding that she break Kentucky law was illegal. He should be in jail and not Kim Davis. The root of the problem is not that Kim Davis in Kentucky is in contempt of the federal court, but that the Supreme Court is in contempt of the U.S. Constitution by making law instead of interpreting law. And there was no law on gay marriage for them to interpret at the federal level. And Congress has the power to overturn that illegal Supreme Court opinion. All they have to do is to use the words of the DOMA majority opinion from 2013. Now, if Congress doesn't do this, then Congress is also in contempt of the Constitution, which is the real supreme law of the land. Jail the judge that jailed Kim Davis and release Kim Davis now. She has upheld her bargain in obeying the laws of Kentucky and of the U.S. Constitution.